Hello, this is Dr. Lorenzo Neal. Uh, Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to my channel. If you're a first time uh, viewer on my channel, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining in. I want to invite you to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Also, like videos, go back. We got plenty of videos on here to share. And I appreciate all that you do to help me make this channel successful. I'm in Washington, D.C., um, advocating on behalf of gun violence victims and gun violence prevention. And I've been having a wonderful day here. Today is September 11th, and it is a sad day in American history. Of course, it is very much a sad day in American history, but it is also the month of September is recognized for a number of things, but one of the things that September is recognized for is suicide awareness. And um, as gun violence prevention advocate, statistically, more persons um, lose their lives to gun violence by suicide, and it's a very tragic thing to know and to hear. And I'm around a lot of persons who have been greatly affected by that action, and which grieves me even more to talk about what I'm going to talk about the news I just read across many news outlets reporting the death of a beloved associate pastor of a church, young man. Um, his name is Jarrid. I think it's Jarrid Wilson, and I'm going to provide a link to at least one of the articles, um, probably from the Christian Post or Charisma magazine. Those are the two sources that I've referenced um, when coming upon this. But Jarrid Wilson was 30 years of age. He was an associate pastor at a local church, but he was also an advocate and a spokesperson for mental health. In other words, his ministry encompassed his passion for serving those affected by mental illness and mental health issues, only for him to take his own life. Um, it's it's a difficult thing to talk about. We pastors and clergy, we're not expected to be transparent about our emotional health, our mental health. Uh, we're expected to be transparent about our spiritual health. They want to hear how we come spiritually, how we're strong and mighty and spiritually and bold in the spirit and the power of God. But they don't want to hear about the personal struggles that antagonize us in the process of being strong and spiritually bold. There are a lot of pastors suffering with mental health issues, mental illness. There are a lot of pastors who go through emotional struggles. I am one. I've gone through that. I lost a mother, I lost a brother, I lost a nephew all to violence, and particularly after the deaths of my brother in 2010 and my nephew in 2016, I experienced very deep depression. I was functioning. I was still able to preach. I was still able to function. I was still able to pastor. It was veiled very well. I eventually went back to see a therapist because in addition to that emotion of trauma and loss and grief, being a single pastor, I also bore the agony of singleness in ministry. And while some people adore that, some people call to that, as Jesus talks about, there's some who are called to be um, celibate to the celibate ministry. I guess you could say I'm not one of those, and so I wrestle with the aloneness and dating and all of that and the emotional things that accompanied all of that, and it was tough. It wore on me emotionally. It wore on me spiritually. Um, and I'm sure my members were able to discern it. Um, I don't know if they did or not, but they they um, they did not overreach, and they did not overreact. So they cared for me in a capacity that was uh, had clear boundaries, and in a capacity that was able to help me um, as I went through that moment. And I'm grateful. And in reading the article regarding um, Pastor Jarrid, he had a strong support system. That's what makes this very difficult. Um, as the Charisma magazine reports, he 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 was loved. He was passionate, and he had only been at this church for 18 months. I can see the reflection. He'd only been in this church for 18 months, and according to the article, he was open about his own depression and often posts on social media about his battles with mental illness. And he leaves behind a wife and two sons. It's hard, you know. I don't think the article talks about the means of which he did that, but it also says that he was a contributor to Charisma News. Uh, that he had written several columns over the years for Charisma News magazine. It's always difficult, you know. It's very difficult to articulate how incidents like this affect the broader church. Um, in an age where the church is wrestling to find its place in an ever growing secular uh, world and community, or trying to find its its place, battling against the ideologies that are ever broadening, while the church is trying to uh, maintain a sense of consistency in its message. It's challenging. It really is very challenging, and it's difficult. As said earlier, it's difficult to articulate how this affects uh, the broader mission of the church. But it's very clear that we must address vehemently. We must vehemently address um, mental illness, mental health, and encourage clergy to be transparent and to seek out help. For black preachers in particular, this is addressed to you. Um, it's okay to uh, let yourself go through the process of healing. If you experience the emotions of depression and all that, it's also okay to seek out help. Um, it's also okay to let your congregation know that you're in need of that. And I know, it may make you seem weak, and there's somebody waiting in the wings, waiting for you to fall because they want to take your place. But man, it's time out for that. This young man struggled. It's very clear that he struggled, and he was open with his struggles. And ultimately, um, the means that he saw to overcome his struggles was this act. And some would say it was selfish. Some would say it's ungodly, and his place is reserved in a place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. And there are some who've already placed him in that space. Um, but I believe if he loved the Lord, if he was in um, reconciled relationship with God through Jesus Christ, um, his faith was secure, and so is his soul. And I'll leave it at that. but we've got to do more. Pastors, I want to encourage you. It's okay. Seek out help. Talk to someone. Find someone you can be accountable to, that you can be vulnerable to, that you can engage these issues with without feeling um, helpless, without feeling um, victimized, without feeling attacked. But most of all, let the people know, because there are so many people in our congregations hurting. So many people like in our congregations, like this young man who may be posting messages on Facebook. Maybe some may be cryptic, some may be direct, and they're coming Sunday after Sunday to hear you proclaim words of victory, empowerment, liberation, and all of that stuff. And they still feel disenfranchised. They still feel disaffected by that message. We got to do more. We have to do more. So that's all I wanted to talk about this morning, today. Um, I do hope that you have a wonderful day, and meaning that this is September 11th. Remember those heroes and those persons who lost their lives so many years ago in that act of terrorism. And remember the many acts of domestic terrorism, the victims of the many acts of domestic terrorism here across this country. And when I talk about terrorism, I'm talking in broad terms acts of violence against others, domestic violence, gun violence. All of that to me is domestic terrorism. So I know that's broad. But anyway, uh, I know this is a somber post, but uh, it's just, it is what it is. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel, share this video with all your friends, um, and all over your social media. Not only that, but hit that bell for notifications. And if you'd like to support us to help make this channel grow, we're really gracious and grateful for you. And information for you to do that, and be a patron, PayPal option, all of that will be provided to you in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Blessings.